Hey everybody, welcome back. Publishing Disrupted podcast. I am editor Mick Silva.
And I am literary agent and indie book publisher David Morris.
And we are exploring the ways in which book publishing is changing and how writers can best meet that challenge.
We talk about how publishing is disrupted, and it's about how we all get disrupted personally in one way or another, wherever life might be, and we certainly have as professionals. The disruption going on, as well as how we lean into that disruption in the book publishing business.
Exactly. Things that have happened to us, we're being disruptors and disruptive as well. I've always been disruptive. I mean, in class, I was too shy to be the disruptor, but I was generally, covertly being disruptive.
Yeah, maybe shyness is a way of being disruptive.
There you go. That's right. In a world of talkers.
Yeah.
And here we are on podcasts, two quiet kids.
This is our chance to not be quiet.
Well, we're talking about books. So in that way, it just feels like, well, why wouldn't I? I love doing that.
Yeah, this is definitely, listeners, this is just a totally self-indulgent podcast. If you haven't figured that out by now.
It totally is.
Two introverts finally getting their say to just the two of us. And maybe and a few of you intrepid listeners. Thank you very
And also,
much.
there's another layer to that, too, because we're both pastors' kids. And we were
Oh.
sitting in church for a long time, having to be good and quiet, right?
Oh, and that phrase, sitting in church for a long time. I resonate with that right there.
So it feels like we're kind of getting our due a little bit. And we can talk about our opinions and how not religious we are now.
Instead of just being the scenery, which is what we were trained to be.
Yeah, there's a lot to discuss.
See, our introversion is more socially determined than you might realize.
It totally is.
Yeah.
When I get around, especially one-on-one like this, when I get around people who are into the things I'm into, oh man, you can't shut me up.
Yeah.
I just get all excited and
Well, like what, for example? What are you into that you've not revealed?
Books, obviously.
Okay.
Publishing, anti-religion. I mean, this is hard to say because there's a lot of people who are very devout and religious about things, but I'm just like, religion, and I make a distinction between spirituality and religion. Yeah. Everyone's spiritual, whether they like it or not. In fact, everyone's religious too in some ways, right?
That's correct. I agree.
Religious.
As a religious studies scholar, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
But to be religious about religion, I'm just not. I don't value it.
I thought you were going to talk about like weird things, like you revealed to me you play video games.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I suppose that's weird. Mostly
that can
vintage.
get you talking. Vintage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vintage video games. I love them. Vintage in the sense of like 8-bit, 16-bit. We like Super Nintendo. I play a lot of Metroid, adventure games, exploration, mazes, games with maps. Love it.
Oh man,
those are fun.
Wow.
My daughters have become pretty rabid about these games as well, and so like we've played all of the different iterations, and the newer ones aren't as fun as the old ones to me. Yeah, just because there's this sense of
all of a sudden we are talking about something like you can't stop. And you're super articulate. And to me, the key thing was there. We, meaning me and my daughters.
It's a shared
You're
love.
Playing things together.
Totally.
Yeah.
I don't like playing by myself.
Yeah.
It's more of like even though it's a one person, usually one person game, even if it's a side scroller game, the difference there where it's like immersive or it's a side scroller.
Right.
It's more of a like 2D.
That must be like a whole movement in parenting right now where parents are playing video games with their kids.
I've heard about it from other people, mostly dads.
Can't imagine everybody's doing it. Oh, okay.
Some women
there you
as
go.
well.
I mean, there's something to that. Wow.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know. I mean, we borrowed some games from you recently.
Opportunity to witness to your children.
With the video games, yes. Play Bible Smash Up. Yeah. No, we borrowed some Wii games from you recently. We had like
borrowed. We gave them to you. Come on.
No, we can't take your games. Those are memories of your daughters as well.
That's true.
They probably want them back.
Okay.
But yeah, we will play Wii golf. We've been doing a lot of that recently.
Nice.
Because it's fun. Anyway, this is not about publishing.
No, back to our
Let's get back to the point. Sorry, we may cut this out.
No.
But we discussed the challenges and the opportunities we see for authors. This mainly is
it's everywhere.
I suppose that there's a little bit of a segue here because I was very focused on just being an author when I was younger. I wanted to write books because I got inspired by Wrinkle in Time and Catcher in the Rye and all these books that were like really cool characters. Yeah. And then I wanted to write books. So then I went into like that mode. I'm going to be a creative writer. So I studied creative writing in college, and, you know, it came out and I'm like, hey, where are all the creative writing jobs? They don't exist. Like, I wasn't really prepared for this, but like I needed another interest. I didn't have a lot of hobbies other than, you know, writing short stories. So I think that one of the things I've been telling my daughters as they prepare for life is have other interests and dig down into them. Like, this is really important. Remember, we had Ivy on, Ivy Zeller, the agent with Hyponymous. And I think she made a great point because on her blog, she's sort of doing it as a daily devotional, I suppose. But, like her deep dives, she's just putting out there for people to kind of learn from, whether it's about gardening or I forget some of the topics she was doing, but whatever topic was interesting her, she was just writing about it and exploring that, what she called hyperfixation that she has. Okay. Yeah. And maybe it's a neurodivergence. I don't remember talking about that specifically, but my kids definitely have that. And where they just get really excited and inspired by something for a while. And so they deep dive into it until it moves on and they get into something else. And the world is big and vast, and there's just a lot of fun things to explore.
That's a spiritual, hyperfixation is a spiritual practice. I think that's what Ivy was trying to say. I think she says it outright. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to figure out now later in life is all the things that I was sheltered as a PK.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
To do a lot of stuff. So now I'm kind of like finding it either in books or movies.
It's a big, wide world out there of things to get hyperfixated on.
Things that are fun. Like there's just different discussions that can be had. I love talking to you because it's about like the psychology of things and even like sociology. Like I'm a amateur or couch sociologist, basically. Like I think we all are in some ways. Like, why are people behaving the way they are?
Right.
What happens when we get into groups?
Right.
You know, this sort of like
our intelligence goes down.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
Actually,
do that.
It can go up too. That's the thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's my point being that I'd like to be broader, more interested in more types of things as I get older. And I don't know. I think there's a value in getting specific. And I mean, obviously we have skills in publishing and editing and writing, but the content has to come from somewhere.
Right.
And that's a full life, right?
Right. You can't just be an editor. You can't just be an author. You're an author of something. You're an editor that connects as well.
Your expertise has to come through. Exactly. Yeah. So I think in this podcast, we're trying to be broad in the sense of like what we talk about, who we talk with.
Right.
I'd love to take some questions if we have enough listeners to do this. If people would put questions.
Live questions?
Well, like that we could respond to.
Comments on our Substack would be great.
Substack, yep. Or even just
contact us
people
directly.
We're talking to. You know, I've heard from several people who said, "Oh, I listen to your podcast." I'm like, "Why?"
We don't even listen to it.
I'd like to know why.
No,
honestly.
Why would we listen to it ourselves?
But I mean, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. I have a topic list here of things that I'd love to cover in our next.
But today
episodes.
We're going to talk about.
Today we had some articles. I mean, we read typically, and then people have opinions and things that they're sharing. I had something that I'd like.
It's a lot of commentary that goes on about the publishing business.
Exactly.
A lot of commentary, but from a whole continuum of
stuff that's helpful and
people
stuff
in the
not.
business, people studying the business, people like para organizations around the business, and then obviously.
Right.
On social media or wherever you see a lot of comments from everyday.
Yep.
Writers, authors.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I mean, we all follow people on Substack.
I do think it's quite often you don't get a lot of unfiltered comments from people high up inside the business.
That's true.
Because they're usually often
very careful.
They're careful. They're representing their brand. Mm-hmm. They don't want to say something their CEO or their bosses don't want to hear them say. They don't want to reveal secrets.
Right.
They don't want to reveal vulnerabilities.
Well, they don't even want to admit things like
right.
like the idea that consolidation in publishing is kind of a bad thing.
Yeah.
That is one of the reasons that publishing struggles.
No one says anything about that from inside the business. Yeah.
That this is a never-ending battle that is going on, but once you identify that and you start seeing it, you can see why the indie publishing is growing.
Exactly, it might be imploding. The consolidation phase might be imploding a little bit.
Right, and then they have to eat up more imprints basically to find distinction.
Might be imploding, but it's still a mass market, mass retail world in a way.
Right. At any rate, I feel like the experience that we've had, with the years in publishing that we've had in Christian publishing, and then seeing how, I guess it struggles to not only be literary, like in the best sense of that phrase, like a literary culture. Is there one when it comes to Christian books? I struggle to say that exists. I mean, maybe, but it's sort of an extension of denominational church affiliation. I think a lot of publishers act as arms of their church. And so, is it a literary culture? Not really. It's pretty careful. It's like how I was raised. It's very circumscribed, right? There's only so much you can talk about.
Right.
And there are certain topics that are verboten, and you're never going to hear from a publisher about those topics.
It sounds like the publishing business itself.
Exactly.
They're both cults of commerce.
And they'll always argue, well, that's just not the audience we serve.
One says it's not commerce, the other says it is.
Right.
One pretends it's
Christians
not commerce.
Christians don't say they're doing it for the commerce.
Yeah.
Or if they are, they're doing it for Jesus. But it's like it's just...
Well, that's what they say they're doing. But
it's just really language, right?
Yeah.
They're just lip
It's often about something else.
So I struggled there to say that there was a vibrant literary culture. That's not the point of what they're doing. They don't necessarily even care about the content in as much as it is just like safe.
So this article is about a certain literary culture that is manifested in podcast culture, podcast discussions.
Yeah.
Right. This first article that we wanted to mention.
Right. The Jane Friedman panel.
The second article, which I hope we'll get to, is about how authors are making money.
Yeah.
So there we go. It took us that long to 12 minutes to introduce our topic for the day.
In Jane's article, she was talking about a panel that happened with publicists, primarily publicists, at the U.S. book show.
The U.S. Book Show, which is, I think it's a Publishers Weekly sponsored show. For professionals and maybe authors alike. I don't even know.
Kind of like Book Expo.
Not sure. It's not exactly consumers. It's more.
There's tables in a convention hall, and you're learning about authors and books.
Yeah.
But the post that she had pulled together from this panel was about podcast publicity. What's working? What's not working? How does it work for authors? And what are they seeing? And so these experts were sharing some of their tips and some of the takeaways. I mean, and I could list them. There were so much things that I am trying to coach authors on. The main thing is to start early. When you're talking about a book, you're entering a conversation. One of the things that I know you tell your authors is it's not just a book. It's a whole campaign that we're trying to prepare people to understand.
So it was saying start early with pitching.
Start early with pitching. Start early with your topics. Finding the connections with these podcast hosts that you'd like to go on their podcast and share. Start early, and she was even saying like 6 months. The panelist was saying 6 months early, like before release, in advance of release.
That's usually a little. Well, go ahead.
That might be a little early. I mean, especially for indie. Maybe
start thinking about the podcast. Start collecting them 6 months in advance. That's for sure. Start researching podcasts.
And these are hopefully podcasts you're listening to, or ones that you've enjoyed. And so then you would understand the format, and you kind of get what the host is about. And maybe you even have a personal connection to the host or someone who has been on their podcast. And so you can make your pitch a little more personal when you do that.
Right.
And that's key, right?
Right. And I think too, it's it tells you that podcasts are about community.
Yeah.
Getting back to literary culture idea, it's not exactly about how many books you'll sell if you're on a certain podcast. It's also about, and maybe even more importantly, about connecting with that host,
Right.
connecting with that co-host, because they're often not just podcast hosts. They're also people who are out there in other ways. They might be an outright social media influencer.
Mm-hmm.
They might know other authors who you can connect with,
Right.
because they're interviewing a lot of authors all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of power there, I think.
Yeah.
If you can establish a relationship through the podcasting guest process, it's not just about you. It's about who this host is, what their program is about, what they want to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think a lot of authors pick up on that pretty quickly when they get in the context of it.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that you don't get from like a media hit, like a print media article.
Sure. Yeah.
You'll get some comments, maybe you'll connect with the editor of that magazine, maybe some. But
you hope you're getting your message out.
But the podcast is a lot more intimate.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's
podcast is the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of authors can come alive, because they're finally getting some like in-person response to their content and get to talk about it. Like,
right.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
So if you have a relationship
right,
with that,
which you couldn't get before podcasts came along.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like they are today anyway.
No, right. And it's not just an interview. Usually it's going to be, pretty personal too. So you look for the appeal. One of the takeaways was pitch to the shows that fit your topic and tone. And you to the idea of being specific about the appeal. And I would even say the felt need. Like, does it fit in terms of your audience and the felt need of that audience? Mm-hmm. Why is it that you're going to this show? And that's what you put in your pitch. Because then immediately the host or whoever's reviewing that pitch will be able to see that connection. Mm-hmm. Oh, they're looking for the same type of audience, but it's also the same pain point or felt need, or a similar one, at least. It's related. They're looking to, well, maybe it's self-help, or they're looking to talk about like religious trauma, or just in other words, understand the format, listen to their previous interviews, see how they went, understand how the host operates, how much personal material to how much, right, just the book content do they talk about. No one wants a forced connection. No one wants a forced conversation.
Right.
And you know it when you hear it.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes, it gets uncomfortable real fast.
Right.
So make sure you do your homework before you get on there.
I think too, like this article, it said, be prepared.
Come prepared. For conversation. Yes.
But I think for conversation is the key thing. It's not so much like come with like a speech ready to give.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you might have points.
Because podcasts are much more informal.
Yeah.
So come ready to be a real person to talk about the bigger issues, not just about your, what happens in your book. Exactly.
And aiming for that genuine connection all the time, because it's about relationships and building relationships.
Right.
I like the point too that the bigger the podcast isn't necessarily better.
Yeah, that was the lead point of the article, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah, that's right. Size doesn't necessarily mean sales. Like the smaller shows, and you can see this, smaller shows get more specific and create a deeper connection with their audience because they can. I mean, frankly, there's, if you have 1,000 listeners, that's a much better chance to connect with those listeners than it is if you had 10,000 or more. Right. So you're not necessarily just looking for the biggest podcast.
Right.
As an author. Yeah.
I would say, like, in my experience, I don't have access to the big ones that maybe people know about.
And what's big? Like 100,000?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I go by, what I go by as a book publisher doing promotional work, publicity work. My biggest indicator is I go to Apple Podcasts and I look and see how many ratings do they have.
That's good. Right.
If it's rarely am I pitching one that has over 1,000.
Sure.
Because of the niche nature of the books that I'm doing.
Right.
If it has just 2 ratings, I probably, you know, I will look, you know, unless it really fits.
Yeah.
And maybe it's new, so it's a good idea to go ahead and do it anyway.
Sure.
And I usually am very, you know, liberal about, like, let's do with this. Let's do, if someone's really interested, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because you can sometimes use that content too to talk about your book.
Right.
Just do it in a way that's value driven and not just, oh, I was on a podcast.
Yeah.
Always come up with like content that says something. But yeah, I approach it like, you know, I look at the ratings as one indicator.
Okay.
I look at how frequently they're posting. A lot of times when you're doing podcast work, it's like, oh, they haven't put anything up for 6 months.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
Move them to my maybe I won't pitch them again list.
Right.
And that happens a lot, honestly. And when you're in the niche markets,
Sure.
but there are podcasts who have really hung in there, and it's just like anything else too. It's like being a book author. It's
right.
like you got to stick with. It's not just like a 2-year deal here.
Sometimes you run out of content.
It's more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Lose your space.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And you're not actually getting into a conversation. You're not connecting into a community. I think that's why a lot of.
Yeah.
I think that's partly why maybe some are not connecting.
Yeah.
It's like their community isn't growing, or it's not extending. I wouldn't say growing necessarily, because that's like that's not performative.
Right,
it's more like, are you connecting?
Yeah. Is that perceived
extending.
Value, right?
Yeah.
Is what you want to be giving to the listeners, and engagement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But definitely bigger is not better in that world. And I've had an author at Lake Drive Books recently who got a lot of podcast traction. In fact, one that was pretty big. And it is interesting that the sales just don't. They're not like automatic. Like, oh, 50 books sold because of that podcast.
Yeah.
I think it does. They are listened to over an extended period of time.
Okay. Sure.
So that spreads out the effect that they might be having.
And that's part of it.
I do think that it. I don't know what's coming to mind. I think it helps mature an author's way of understanding who they are, what their book is about, too, by continuing to talk about it, and it connects them into a conversation.
Yep.
I think if you hit the right podcast and you really speak to that podcast audience, regardless of its small, you will move books, even from the small ones. Though I will see books move from a very small podcast. So it's a mixed bag.
Sure.
But it's there's a lot of intangibles to. Don't disregard them.
And one of those, I mean, just to kind of, not to curtail things, but like I want to move on to your article too. But the last point I wanted to make from this was really interesting, and I think it comes from a publicity pro. But talking about coordinating the show's release, you don't have a lot of control over that as an author. Obviously, they're going to release when they do, but you can ask the question, like, when will this release? Is it right around the time of your book release? I would try to coordinate it, because one of these publicity experts was saying they coordinated all shows to release within a short time frame of soon after that book released, and it really did help that at least initial launch of whatever the book was. I'm understanding it was nonfiction, but then it can really show kind of like gets the word out. We always call it like seeding the market, right? And then the conversations start happening and growing from there. I
think that's true for all publicity. It's sort of like an accumulation of social confirmation.
There's like exactly.
If you can get it all
critical mass.
A critical mass. It's suddenly people are like, oh, I heard about this here, and I heard about this here. I heard about this here.
Yeah.
I need to check this out now.
This author said I needed to check this out.
I think that's a true thing. In general, I think that that's not the only thing. Like at some point, at some point that window is over.
Right.
And
pretty quickly.
If you didn't create that critical mass, it doesn't mean you failed.
No, it doesn't.
And honestly, the critical mass, I don't know how much that really happens for most people.
That's something to talk about.
Like I was just reading another publicist Substack that I read said that you just don't see that happening these days. Legacy media does not work like that anymore because it just isn't there.
Well, you can't coordinate with legacy media. There's no way.
Right. But I do think with regard to podcasts, I mean, first off, I think a lot of the hosts are already aware of this, and they want to schedule the release of the podcast near the date. I think that is a benefit to them, that it shows their own social confirmation and relevance.
That's right. And you could even pitch that to them.
So there's that, yeah.
You say, this is my window.
Right.
And, if it's not in June, then we'll move on to someone else. But
I mean, a lot of podcasting too it's work. And like even what we do, it's,
oh yeah.
When can you fit things in? How far out are you already booked?
Yep. Yep. And you got to let some things go.
Yeah.
You're going to follow up, but you got to let it go for now.
So I think there's also a long tail that you can have by still pitching yourself to podcasts later on.
Yeah.
If you're in a conversation, it's not strictly about the book. It's about whether you're a person of influence.
That's right.
As well. Like if you're a guest, and regardless of whether your book just came out, if you also have a following, and you go on that podcast sees, just to speak in business terms, value in you.
Yep.
For because you're now going to promote that episode to your audience.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's not just about the book. In fact, that's actually kind of what the podcast wants in the first place.
Yes.
Is more of their own audience to grow, like overlapping. So I think in the long term, there's a lot of value to continuing on, to not just, oh, well, I don't want to do that podcast because it's like my book has already been promoted, or it only has to be around the launch date. That would be the wrong mindset.
Yeah.
It would. Besides, also, you can only do so many podcasts as an author.
Right.
If there's a lot of them booking you, there's you will run out of time.
Oh my gosh. I know. They were saying 20 shows coordinated to release with this one book release.
Yeah, well,
that's a lot of shows.
Yeah, that's a lot. Even for like a higher level author, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So they had to be recording over months, right?
Yeah, or just getting them prepped way in advance,
ready to launch.
Yeah, but I can guarantee you, if
That's
they really
rare.
had 20 coming out around the launch window for the book, well, let's call the launch window a period of like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
There was probably a point in there where the author was like doing a podcast every time they turned around.
Exactly.
And that can be exhausting.
Day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's not usually what's going to happen. That's typically not the people.
Especially if you're like in a niche interest area.
That's the thing I was going to talk about.
Is more reliable than
or just ask you about. Like, the critical mass is probably necessary on the books that have a lot of movement, a lot of interest in that content, in that topic.
Yeah.
We're looking more at niche books, like religious trauma, right?
Right.
Like purity culture. I would think like Sarah Mosliner. Well, let's have her on. She could probably talk about this too. Like when you're talking to an audience that is like pretty limited, you know all the podcasts that exist. You know kind of all of the outlets that you need to talk to.
And you could get on all those podcasts and they could all release all at once and it won't have any effect on your purity culture book in terms of sales.
It still won't really matter much.
And this is not a dig against anybody or anything.
It's
just but it's just the scale is different.
Yeah.
So you have to approach it differently.
Well, and academic books also, right? If they're for the educational model, like that's going to be another sort of limiting factor on your audience growth.
Right.
And publishers know that, and authors need to know that as well. You kind of like adjust your expectations before your book release.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all we need to talk about there. I can put the link in the notes here so you guys can check it out.
I will say podcasts are pretty important. When I put together a campaign these days, I'm looking at launch team, I'm looking at podcasts, I'm looking at author posting value-driven content.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't trust ads in I mean, who's even looking at those? Or TV. I don't think you're going to get on a show.
Or even print or online written media. Like people want to pitch my book to the New York Times. First off, they're looking for feature articles, and there's the book review, but
and maybe there's a smaller outlet you could find. I don't know. There's all kinds of interesting things you can do. So, I mean, in social media isn't the be-all, end-all either. I don't know that people buy books necessarily off of Facebook ads, but maybe you have some anecdotal.
More off of the author's posting.
Okay.
I think, I mean, definitely if an author has a good sized following, it takes more than one post to get through to your reader. And that is sometimes enough.
Yeah.
is if there's enough posts from you over extended period of time, if you're coming at them with value-driven content, even if you're not talking about the book directly and it's in your profile,
sometimes that's better, right?
that can still drive sales over time. And that's one of the things I say is like, what happens when the media campaign's over?
Right.
What's going to be the thing that drives awareness for your book? And if you feel like the media campaign was the one thing that's going to do it, like it needed to create a critical mass, and then suddenly the book takes off on its own as word of mouth, that's great. That does happen. But it will end at some point for most authors. And so then what? Then what? How are you going to find out? How people are going to find out about your book?
Right. And it isn't just about selling the book. I mean, obviously it's more about, but at least for the authors I'm working with, I'm assuming yours too, they want to be part of a conversation. I don't say start a conversation because I don't think that's necessarily ever the case. It's more adding to the conversation or adding your take on a conversation that already exists. So you have to come prepared and do your research and know who's talking about this and what they're saying.
Have something to say.
Have something to say that's your own and that you're, I guess, researched and maybe become an expert in that particular take. But
I have my own little project coming out, and I'm just starting to work on a podcast pitch.
Oh yeah.
And the thing that's exciting me the most about it is not so much talking about all the getting into the weeds of the book itself, but the conversation that can be had around it. That's actually is what is exciting me more than anything. I hope I get. I hope I can get into that
opportunity.
That's if you have a podcast out there, Dave Morris has a book coming out. We'll talk about it more later on.
Another episode.
So this other article, not author article, the word author is in the title. It was a, it was a Publishers Weekly article.
Right.
Not the only place where this story was published, but the title is Authors Guild Looks at Why Author Incomes Are in Decline. And it goes on to say that 25% of print books and ebooks read in the past month were bought new or through a paid subscription. So only 25% of print books and ebooks read in the past month were bought new. The study conducted by the Codex Group notes that books are available in more formats and channels than ever before. And average authors' earnings, here comes the number, now pegged at about $10,000 annually.
Good grief.
Have declined about 42% since 2009, the year Kindle's first entered the market. Now let's unpack that right there a little bit.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing is, well, one way to look at this, strictly look at the math. If 10% is 42% down since 17 years ago, 2009.
2009. That means they were making,
maybe it means you were making what? Like 1,500 before. It means you're only making 15,000 before 15,000. Annually. So the income is down to 10,000 annually from 15,000 annually. So is this really news? Is this really a story?
No,
that's a question right there.
Would make sense that.
Okay, so it's directional information, but is that really breaking news? No. We all kind of know authors aren't making a lot of money in general. On average. Now, of course, we don't know where this 10,000 annually comes from. It really, everything, like we've said many times, everything in the book publishing conversation depends on context.
And how
there's a lot of different contexts.
Exactly.
But that's something to, I think that's something to talk about is there really an issue here? Because it will matter as we go down further into the article as they talk about why it's down. I think also the fact that it calls out the fact that there are more formats and channels than ever before. Is that a reason why author income might be down? Just simply because there's more formats and more markets than channels than ever before.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, you would think it's the opposite. Yeah.
It's more available.
Right. So in a way, is that really fair to peg that as part of the issue?
Right.
And that's what gets me about the article in a way, because it's sort of like, well, okay, so let's talk about why that might be. Why is it unexpected? It also talks about 2009 marking the point where it was a downturn, more or less. That's implied, I believe, by this paragraph, being the year that Kindles first entered the market, which is true. Kindles first entered the market around 2009.
Yeah.
But like it's a little misleading right there, because ebooks, at least in context,
right.
But ebooks are a much smaller percentage than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
I still get comments from people saying, you know, like they're shocked when I tell them, of the books I sell, only 10% are ebooks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nonfiction, spirituality, religion, memoir, self-help. 10%. Only 10%. It's higher for fiction, obviously.
I mean, that's surprising.
But it's not that much higher. People still prefer print books by a large amount.
Margin.
Audiobooks, we've mentioned before, have actually surpassed, in some instances, ebooks.
Depending on the topic. Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's the biggest surprise as of late.
Well, I mean, that's true for my usage as well. I mean, just personally, I'm listening to far more books than I'm actually reading, and I never read an ebook. Like, I just don't do it.
Right.
I'm always on the computer.
Me neither. Yeah.
So if it's on, and also I know ebooks are cheaper. I want a real book. If I'm going to read a book, I want to read a book. I think most people are that way.
Right.
At least most people my age. Maybe that's not as true for younger kids or whatever, depending on the read. But I would argue, like,
most of the
all
time,
the way up to like anything with pictures, anything with notes, anything that I'm going to have to like flip around. I want a real book.
Yeah.
Graphs.
Yeah.
Illustrations.
And that's true for most people most of the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. There are groups where it's not true for them, but.
So why do you think that they're trying to make this point about ebooks being one of the reasons that authors' incomes or earnings are down? Like, it just doesn't seem to follow.
Yeah, I think it gets back to the bigger point of there's more formats and more channels. Mm-hmm. So they go on in the article to say that the way readers obtained their most recent book was at the library, with 29% choosing that option.
Okay.
10% were bought used. 16% were borrowed for free from another source, which it's not explained here what that is. And then 19% were from personal collections. I'm not sure what that means, if it means borrowed from someone else's collection.
Or that they already owned it and just reread it or something.
I don't know.
Their most recent book was at the library. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
That they bought or that they read?
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, it just feels misguided, the article. And I don't mean to just come down hard on PW again, but I feel like this is trying to make a point out of nothing. Maybe it's not nothing, but is there data here? Probably. Is it being well explained to us? No. And then the conclusions that they're drawing just seem pretty far-fetched, I guess, based off of my own.
Well, the Guild stresses it strongly supports availability of books through various channels and formats. It also notes that authors aren't benefiting from wider availability of their books. That is like they're making a conclusion that because it's wider availability, that's why you're earning less money.
Right.
But there's no mention of fragmented marketplaces.
Yes.
They're mentioning different channels, but marketplaces, or rather audiences, are smaller. They're more segmented than ever before. We don't have mass culture like we used to.
Even author contracts are changing, right? There's a lot of there's money being left on the table all the time. And you as an agent know this. There's the conversations that are happening at contract level are getting much more solidified, and like you don't have as much leverage or leeway, I guess, with some of these. I would say argue, okay, first off, I want to break down like what is average author earnings, because you're talking about a whole broad spectrum of people that, one author is totally different from another author. The authors you're pitching are very different from the ones that were being pitched to you when you were as Zondervan. Yeah. Right? Those agents are seeing different types of authors than you're seeing.
Right.
And they're seeing different contracts than you're seeing. So you might have more bargaining power than one of the higher up authors is going to have, because they're going to get more of that typical boilerplate contract. And those are mid-listers. If you're talking about like front listers, sure, they have plenty of bargaining power because they're getting other authors from houses. But like, I just don't think you can say there is an average author, first of all.
Right.
And then average author earnings. If you look at that graph,
Kind of does a disservice in general. It's more
it
like,
totally does.
yeah, it's more
because
like
it's the top
producing
10% of authors.
Yeah.
You need to lop that off. Like,
I mean,
right
I get it.
away.
The Authors Guild is their job is to be advocates for authors.
Right.
That's what they're trying to do here.
But I mean, an average author, an actual average author,
Yeah.
not giving us the average over all authors. You know what I mean? Like, that's not helpful.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just think there's a lot of truth to the old adage. I think it was Mark Twain who says there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. It feels like this is statistics, and you're just giving me this article based off of some data points.
Yeah.
I don't want to be dismissive.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it makes me mad.
right. I mean, we could talk about more context here. The article does go on, and it kind of singles out libraries. And I know one person in the publishing business that's like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
What is this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The study also addresses another flashpoint over digital books, digital lending by libraries. Since ebooks were first introduced, authors and publishers have worried that the lack of friction, i.e. the need to go to the library to pick up a book, would lead to a surge in ebook lending and at the expense of sales. According to the survey results, the data suggests that that is indeed happening. Active library members were found to buy 42% fewer new books, 42% fewer new books than non-members. And the substitution effect is strongest for the most popular, widely stocked authors.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my head around that. Again, though, it's starting to talk about the digital lending is causing an effect, but people aren't really reading ebooks that much.
As much.
It might be the audio a little bit. I would grant that, but I still don't think that it is getting library members into a library, and that they're doing that less. I don't know that that's why authors are learning or making less money these days.
I just
definitely don't think it's because of the e-editions.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I just don't think that library readers are the typical reader either. Like, if you're looking at book sales, how many people who buy books in a Barnes & Noble are library readers? Like, that might be an interesting data point. And they're not even considering it. And like, I want to go back to Marshall McLuhan or something, like, and go, let's break this down, because the television, the radio, the advent of print itself from the very beginning has been like this, oh no, reading is in decline. Like, that's another big article that was in the Atlantic recently. Like, reading is in decline. Like, how often do you hear this?
Yeah.
And then
there's truth.
They're just blaming the new technology, whatever the new technology.
And that's affected libraries too. The new technology.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, honestly too, like the library we're doing this podcast in, it's a pretty new library, like just 5 years maybe.
Right.
And I remember first coming in here going, wow, there's not that many books.
There's not that many books.
Yeah. It's a pretty good size It's a pretty good size building
for what it is.
And they have a lot of things.
They should have more books.
Yeah, it almost even seems like in the space where they do have books, they probably could have crammed more in.
Yeah. Oh no, they could have a much larger collection. I think maybe they're growing it, but
maybe.
And a lot of it is online. I get a bunch of audiobooks.
Yeah.
Not ebooks, but
and their podcast room is getting a lot of use, and the study rooms here always look full.
Yeah, and they have events. They have a petting zoo outside right now.
Right, that's true.
So they're getting kids in to read Dog Man, assumedly, and whatever else they love.
Right.
But, is that what's really causing authors' revenue to decline?
It's more like the reason this library is a different kind of library is
and that's
the
what
reason,
I'm seeing.
are the reasons why authors' revenue is declined. It's not because of the library itself.
Not the library itself.
Yeah.
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 Library copies of books, we all know, they cost like way more than a general sale. So like libraries actually can be a boon for an author. Like if a bunch of libraries are buying their books, that's a lot of royalty for them. So I don't know. I don't want to dog on PW.
Or the Authors Guild in this case.
Or the Authors Guild because of the study.
It's really more what their study
they paid for the study.
And the direction, the questions that were asked in the study.
Maybe the questions are not
It's good directional data that authors are making less money. But let's talk about like bigger, wider factors going on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's hard to cram all that into a short article
Maybe
that's
so.
online. But I think that's really the bigger question is, why are you in this for the money? That's one big thing.
Yeah, that's a good starting place.
What does it take to earn more than $10,000 a year?
Mm-hmm.
That's another good question. It's not just making sure libraries are paying more money for books or that we're limiting ebook consumption because it's not that high to begin with.
Exactly. What are you going to do? Yeah.
Or it's not that there's too many channels somehow and we need to limit that.
Right.
I think there is some truth to things like audiobook subscriptions not paying as much royalties as they used to in the past. I think there's some truth to that, I've heard.
Or even that Kindle Direct Unlimited, whatever that is.
And I don't doubt that the media, the owners of the media distribution channels and the media companies themselves are squeezing
probably
authors.
Mm-hmm.
I see that too.
But overall, I don't know that authors' revenues are down. I mean, maybe cumulative.
Yeah.
From all those.
I think it gets back to your question about being a sociologist and how are we structured as a society today, and does it make it easy to, first off, there's a lot more authors. There's a lot more authors out there. Right. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but obviously it creates competition or everybody has a lot of choices. That's a phrase you hear a lot ever since Starbucks came along the scene.
Well, and sure, I guess I just, and even with the readers that are reading is in decline sort of catchphrase now, it just feels like, I know it's
issue.
Always been that reading is in decline. I just don't think this is new, and I don't think the answer is to go back to some old-fashioned days of yore and try and make people read books. Or try and make them go buy it at Barnes & Noble.
There's also talk of nonfiction book sales being down across the board. Yeah. And let's talk about that. Sure. It's not because libraries are lending ebooks.
No, exactly.
It's more and then there's
more choices, there's more options. Right. We're entertaining ourselves to death.
People are looking at AI, they're looking at Substack, they're looking at podcasts
I need to buy that?
As replacing that information. And but again, even in that conversation, we might lament that people are reading less, but it's really the percentage numbers aren't as high as you might think. Right. Oftentimes these are conversations about single-digit percentage decreases, and maybe it means things have moved and shifted rather than things are going away.
Exactly, and like I do, I get a lot of information from a lot of different sources. But like you turn on the closed captions on YouTube, and you're reading the TED Talk. Tell me that's not like reading a book.
Right.
That's like reading a book. Reading. So if reading is in decline just because book sales are down, don't tell me that. Right. Don't write that article. I'm just saying.
Or you're reading your captions on your Instagram post or
whatever it is. If it's coming to you and it's a video and you're just listening to it, you're reading it and it's coming at you very fast. So if kids aren't reading as fast as they used to, then I'm sorry, but that's wrong. They are. They're actually probably reading faster than they used to. Yeah. And our attention span's down. Sure, maybe by some data points, but in another way, they're spending like 8 hours, 9 hours on their phones. Their attention span is just fine. Yeah. It's just we're putting too much emphasis in the old way, right? Or what we assume to be this decline, and not recognizing that there's a huge increase in many other ways if you just like reframe that information. Now, maybe there's not a huge increase in the money that is going into authors' pockets, but there is always an increase in how many books are being sold, how many publishers, like you saw the lines of like publishers' revenues and stuff. It's always up. Like, why is this? I would look at like Amazon or Audible. Is their subscription base growing? Absolutely, yes. I know it is. I don't even have to look. Why is that? It's because they're pricing it effectively. They're making it very competitive. They're giving you enough for free. They're giving you a free trial, whatever. Publishers need to be responsive, just like authors need to be responsive to market demands, and not just say, oh, woe is us and the sky is falling and stuff. I just don't think that helps anybody.
I think it becomes a question of where are you getting your immersive experience? Because that's what we've always said about books, that you can't get that from social media captions or closed captioning on a show.
Right.
Where are you getting your immersive experience? Where are you getting that physical book you were talking about earlier that you put on yourself, becomes a part of your identity by looking at it? And
you feel like you've lived that life.
A book, too, that maybe you don't read from cover to cover, although people do that. Someone I know recently said that they stayed up all night reading a book. I've never done that. Wow. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I've never done that.
But I was I marveled. I marveled. I thought it was amazing.
I love it.
But I'm more like, I've got several books going at once, and I pick them up over time. You can't do that with digital media as easily.
No,
I mean, you can. Someone will always. I can always hear someone in my head saying, "Well, but I do this."
Sure.
But but the print books make that. There's just something about them that's different. Like there's different things about them. The fact that they're physical makes them different, for one thing.
Yep.
But it's like, where do we get that immersive experience? And I think as people who come from religious, spiritual, book publishing professions, supposedly, that I think that's what our question should be. Mm-hmm. Or even as authors writing books for the life of the Spirit.
That's great.
However you might define that.
Yeah.
I think that's really what we should be leaning into, and that's what we'll be having conversations about on podcasts, and getting, that's what we'll having conversations that are not necessarily even related to the book, but the bigger conversation that the book contributes to.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need more than ever. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that the 60,000 word print book medium is a relic of the 20th century, which is one comment I saw on a thread about this conversation. Like, no, I mean, there's still away or something. There's still like gazillions of books being sold all the time.
It will never not be prestigious to be an author of those books, because you have a power over people.
Right. I watched Star Trek, and in the 24th century, Captain Picard was holding up a book about and it's like that's wonderful. I actually I went looking for a book by Otto Rank, an early psychoanalyst. Probably like the second best or the second in command of the psychoanalytic movement at one point, either before or after Jung, probably after.
Otto Rank.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
And I went looking for his book on the art and the artist. The artist and art. It's a whole psychoanalytic book about art. And cool. I found all these different editions online, and they were kind of expensive.
Yeah.
And then I found one that was hardbound, cloth overboard, and I went, this can't be right. It was a lot less expensive at thrift books. So there you go. Yeah. In terms of authors making money, now you're hearing one example. But I was thrilled when it came, because oh my gosh, this looks like it's an original edition from 1938 or whatever, 1932, I think. Yeah. And I just I'm so happy I have this physical artifact that I'm going to just relish reading slowly. And even though it's 100 years old in terms of its wisdom and so on, but
it's a beautiful object too. I mean, that is one thing I'm sort of sad about. Like, the new books just don't look good. They don't seem like they're built to last, a lot of them. And so it's rare to find a book that's pretty, that you're like, I'm going to give this to my kids someday, Yeah. But that's what has happened with some of these libraries, and that's why I value these books. I think sometimes what we're talking about with the decline of reading is, were you read to as a kid? It's just that. Mm-hmm. If you were read to as a kid, you're going to have a desire to read books. Mm-hmm. And we know this just from studies, right? Psychology and stuff. If you were read to as a kid, now that's a privilege, right? If you had parents who were taking time to read, picture books to you, right? Or they gave you board books, right? And you read to yourself in your room, like most of what I did. But there's a reason you love books, and it comes from those early memories. And you don't realize those are being evoked when you read a book. But every time I read a book, those, not specifically, right? But it's there. all that history from my reading days.
And what is that? Is that
when you talk about immersive experience
and a shared experience?
Right.
If you're talking about your parents reading to
exactly
you know,
good memories, right?
Your
Sitting
parents
on your
read to
grandma's
you?
lap or something.
Or
They did.
Your grandmother read to you?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're probably Christian books, but you know, when I think back on it, it wasn't all Christian books. There was like Berenstain Bears. There was, you know, some of my favorite
Christian.
stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Dr. Seuss and Richard Scarry's and you know, I'm remembering reading Spot the dog to my kids, and like when I read a book, all those things kind of come back to me.
Yeah.
In sort of a disembodied way. It's not like I'm thinking about that memory, but it is an experience. And when you talk about what immersive experience, where are you getting that immersive experience?
Yeah.
It typically is when I am reading a book. It's because I'm holding the book and I'm sitting there and I'm reading words on a page that somehow are making sense to me and making me feel things. Like, how does that happen? I don't know, but it's an amazing thing.
I agree.
And everyone who reads gets this. And it's this shared experience that we're all having, kind of, right, across time and across space.
Like when you read a book, I think you put like that slower experience of reading a book. I think like threads come together in your brain, and in your, you know, in your just threads come together. I just want to put it that way, and you see connections that you don't get when you
had no idea that was
scrolling on a device.
Yeah, the older I get, the more I hope.
Or even as an audiobook, I would say it's not the same.
Right.
Like I've heard people say that, like reading, like sometimes they'll want to read the print book as well as the audio.
The temptation with audio is you speed it up because you're trying to consume it faster. I think because you can, right? You can speed up that voice.
And you're doing it while you're doing something else.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Whereas a book, you're probably sitting down.
Yep.
You're focusing. It's quiet.
Yes.
A printed book.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, maybe ebook too,
but I do think that probably people are doing that less. I'm doing it less because I have a phone and I have Netflix. And so you're going to probably read less. But I read less because I'm reading books that I have to read for money as an editor. But like, I think a lot of people, sure, they would be able to say just anecdotally, they're not reading as much.
Yeah.
But we're not usual.
We're not the usual readers. Yeah. Our reading is so messed up because we have to, it's part of our job. It's like I can't read sometimes
when I'm in a bad
reading
mood
for work.
Yeah, I'm always like, I have to read this crappy book instead of a good one.
Wii golf.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we've belabored this, but I do think our listeners typically want to know, you know, at least what I'm hearing from people. I don't know if you hear from people who listen to the podcast. People are telling me now, and so I'm like, that's in my head.
Yeah.
But like, they want to hear our opinions about things, but like, it's kind of the behind the scenes stuff. So I'd love to share more of that in future episodes. Also, what we're reading specifically. I just finished a great book, Matt Haig, this morning, How to Stop Time. My wife has been wanting me to read it for a while, and it's so well done. It's this earlier stuff, 2017, but it's really immersive, like you were talking about. So
I'm reading a book on ancient Celt history, like from the very beginning, which is not Ireland, everybody. It's actually in Europe. It's actually started in Austria. And cool. Hallstatt, Austria is one of the earliest known beginnings of
Celtic spirituality.
But what's wonderful about it is it's helping me to retrain my brain that there is other ancient history than the one we were taught in Sunday school.
Right.
Where it is sort of like the archetypal history of Adam and Eve and so on. Well, that Adam and Eve story was written.
There's other stuff
after the Celts,
right?
And there's European spirituality that predates.
That's cool.
That story from the Jewish tradition.
Yeah.
That we've appropriated, you might say. You know, this and the European tradition of ancient Celts is like predates Jesus. Why aren't we talking about any of that stuff?
Yeah, you never learn about that.
Oh, because Jesus is better. Well,
yeah, but if this came first.
I want to learn about these folks in Germany rather than someone
that's fascinating.
In a land further away.
Yeah.
And I think we miss that. And we miss that. There's an indigeneity to that that we lost.
Yeah.
Because of this sort of monotheism that we've all been, especially in America.
Yeah.
So that's it's a very dry book. It's like reading a textbook,
Sure.
but it's sort of retraining my brain.
Yeah.
And it's really quite
I
a
enjoy
joy.
that.
Yeah.
That's immersive for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it puts me to sleep at night sometimes.
Added bonus.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We'll cut it here and continue next time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.